He said, Uncle Imran has done the homework for you at the beginning. These are a few hadiths which I have used to explain to you and describe to you what the world is going to be like. I'm sure that there are other hadiths which can be brought together. If we would only do some thinking, and then Allah blesses us with insight. May Allah bless those who now devote time and attention to this subject. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا انك انت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين امين. Can we have the question and answer now? No, okay. Do we have any questions? All right, no, Chairman. Yes, right.
Yeah. Sheikh, would you say the bank?
Right.
Just before we pose the question, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just want to also just go through these ladies as well. So these format. So for those who, it would obviously be preferable to pose questions from the floor. But for those who are not able to or wouldn't like to do it like that, they can write the questions on a piece of paper and pass it forward. I'm sure we'll find a way to do that. And the ladies as well, if you would like to pose questions, you can either write it on a piece of paper. Is something that me around will go fetch, or otherwise, ladies can perhaps just throw it down, from the top. So, inshallah, Tafadol, you wanted to pose a question.
You said the banking system, believe, will remain post-Muhammad. You've also said in previous lectures that Israel are moving to gold as a main standard. Do you believe the banking system remains until that gold standard now takes over and then people follow?
Okay, the question is that there's also an event which is coming, that we know is coming. Israel will have to give to the world a monetary system based on actual physical gold and silver coins. The question is, how do we relate this to the electronic money? That says that electronic money will be the third monetary system. The first was a day like a year, and the British sterling pound. The second was a day which is like a month, and the US dollar, the Bretton Woods, and the petrodollar monetary system. And the third, where Israel replaces the United States, and Pax Judaica replaces Pax America, and a new monetary system, namely electronic and digital money. All of these must come before the Khuruj of Dajjal. It is when Dajjal appears in human form as a Jew, a young man called Philip, etc. It is at that time that Israel will have to return to gold and silver coins. Next question. Yes.
Well, my question is, you were talking about the migrating to the rural countryside. How we identify the signs when that should take place?
It's asking what is the sound?
Good question. How do we know where to move? That's what he's asking. How soon will the Malhama take place? If you are watching what's happening in the world, you can see the incremental movement towards war with Russia is now inevitable. It can happen anytime. I had a dream, and I normally do not broadcast my dreams. So when I choose to share a dream with you, the implication is because I believe it is very important. The dream has application for me, send message to me, gives me knowledge. Up to you to choose if you like to pay attention to it or not. In the month of September, I was in Iran attending a conference, and I had the same dream twice, same night. And I saw nuclear war. I saw nuclear missiles being shot into the sky, and I saw Pakistan was in the war. When I woke up from that sleep, I remembered that I had a dream 2 years before 9/11, and that dream came true on 9/11. In fact, when I had the dream, I went on the Mimbar and I gave a khutbah in Long Island in which I mentioned the dream. So there are many who could confirm that yes, it did happen to me. And there was a gap of 2 years between the dream and 9/11. The dream was in 1999, and 2 years later we had 9/11 in 2001. So I assume that we now have a breathing spell of about a year and a half to 2 years left before the marathon. That's not much time. Those who want to benefit from the dream which I had, and who choose not to believe that we still have maybe 5 or 10 years, would now take steps to find a place in the remote countryside and stock up on food and on water and try to master something of the technology of solar energy. Learn how to build a house with mud walls, and learn other survival skills. What to do when there is no sunlight? How do we live in a world in which there is no sunlight? How long will it last? No sunlight. There's a hadith which speaks of 40 days. The Christians say 3 days. Yes, pathology. But then the hadith which says 40 days there's no sunlight. How do we survive such a time? So survival skill. Next question.
Before taking a question from the floor, there's just one person who wrote this question down. Maybe we can join these two questions as two. What is the role of Iran in the Malhama, as well as what is the role of Pakistan in the Malhama?
Pakistan does not have any special role to play. Rather, Pakistan is going to be a target. The reason why Pakistan is going to be a target is because no Muslims must be allowed to have a weapon of mass destruction. The world of Islam has to be denuclearized. And so Pakistan, it is inevitable that Pakistan will be attacked in order to destroy Pakistan as a nuclear power. If you destroy Pakistan's nuclear capacity, you also have to break up Pakistan in order to ensure that Pakistan never rises again in the future as a nuclear power. So the breakup of Pakistan into bits and pieces is inevitable. At that time, Pakistan's armed forces and the government in Islamabad raised their hands and made dua to Allah. Would Allah answer their dua? When for all of these years, shamelessly, Islamabad, are you listening to me? Without a semblance of shame on your part, you allowed the territory of Pakistan to be used for NATO to transship all the weapons, all the supplies, everything they needed to wage war in Afghanistan and to kill our innocent brothers and sisters and children. Don't you have any shame? Islamabad and the Pakistan Armed Forces? No. No. 1,000 times no. No dua of yours will ever be answered. On the contrary, the innocent people of Pakistan, when they see Pakistan breaking up, They will come after you and they'll lynch you, and you deserve that lynching. About Iran is different. About Iran is that which I did not speak. No. But there's a question mark. I'm certain that there be those in Iran who will follow the Mahdi, even when they find out he's not Shia. As I'm certain there is some amongst the Sunni, not the majority, some amongst the Sunni who will follow the Imam al-Mahdi. The rest of the Sunni will say, no, he's a terrorist. That kind of Islam can't work in the world today. And they reject it. And so I'm sure that in Iran there are those who will have authentic loyalty at that time, and will therefore have a role to play in the world post-Malcolm. What that role is going to be, I don't think we can encompass that in our lecture tonight.
Saddam said, yes, Islam is supposed to lead mankind out of this network quagmire that we're in now. If we look at the Muslim world, generally speaking, for me personally, that take interest in this, many instances, you get so-called Muslim countries or leaders that assist these kinds of Dajjal people, and the message is being led onto a very dangerous road. So who is going to take the initiative to try and save, not only in this life, but what life to come for the future? Because to me personally, only in isolated cases, that some of our own ulama's come on the individual basis, where they, to me personally, should come in a grand scale and try and combat this.
I'm very happy for this question. How do you recognize within our world of Islam? How do you recognize those who are betraying us and those who are faithful? This brings us to eschatology. My study of eschatology has led me to the conclusion that when Dajjal was in a day which is like a year, he did more than create the first ruling state of Pax Britannica. He did more than controlling money with the now UN in the sterling power monetary system. What he did was to create within the world of Islam those who will rule the world of Islam on the Dajjal's behalf. And that was the so-called Ottoman Islamic Empire. And I have done my studies, oh yes, I assure you, before I speak these words. And when Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, he did more than create the United States of America and Pax Americana with the US dollar. He created within the whole of Islam a successor to the Ottoman Empire, which will take leadership in the world of Islam on Dajjal's behalf. And that was the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And when Dajjal is to move to a day which is like a week, and Pax Jamaica is to replace Pax America, and the electronic and digital monetary system is to replace the petrodollar monetary system. He creates ISIS, which is destined to now replace Saudi Arabia with a bogus caliphate of Khilafah. That is my answer to you. This is how we recognize the head of the snake.
Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum.
Incidentally, this is the first time tonight, first time in my life I've ever made this comment. Go ahead.
Sheikh, my question is slightly off topic, but I wanted to know about Dajjal and your interpretation of the eye being a spiritual eye of blindness, whereas in the hadith that I read, it was like a protruding grape. So how do you interpret? Why do you interpret the one like that and not like in a physical
Okay,
sense?
you were not here at the beginning of the lecture then.
Oh, this one.
This one. You were not here at the beginning.
Where you said about the muhkamat and
That's why there are ahadith which have to be interpreted, like the ayat of the Quran, which have to be interpreted. However, if you wish to wait for the mountain or the metal to come out of the river, you can wait. If you want to wait for the flying donkey, you can wait. And if you want to wait for somebody who is down in Jerusalem and he has one eye and claims to be Dajjal, you will have to explain to me how come Nabi Muhammad والسلام, suspected Ibn Sayyad to be Dajjal. And he had two eyes. Next question.
Mangala, you've already outlined very much in your answers as well with regards to Dajjal coming from the east in the flying donkey. But now the question that follows is that Dajjal, would he have a body until he appears as a day like a day like a day, a real day? This is what it says here. So if Dajjal after the Muhammad that would come from the east, still not in human body, and how can it be from the east?
I thought I had already explained, maybe I did not, that when his day like a week is finished, when the conquest of Constantinople has taken place, has it taken place as yet? Is Sultan Muhammad Fateh the man that the Prophet spoke about when that was the Turkish people were furious with me. They'll break my neck if I go to Turkey now. Is Sultan Muhammad Fatih the man that Nabi Muhammad spoke about when he praised it? لتفتحن القسطنطينية ولنعمل آخرها ولنعم الجيش ذلك الجيش. You will most certainly conquer Constantinople. And what a wonderful army that would be, what a great commander that would be. Sultan Muhammad Fatih led the Ottoman troops and conquered Constantinople in 1452. Is that what the Prophet is about? Or are you going to come now with some bogus theory and bogus theophany? No, there are two conquests of Constantinople to get out of the mess in which you are. No. The Prophet spoke of only one conquest of Constantinople, and it is not as yet occurred. No. It is only after the conquest of Constantinople that you're going to have the Khuruj of Dajjal. The Khuruj of Dajjal means that a day which is like a week has now come to an end. And his day was وَسَامِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ. And his day is now like our day. So he is in our world of space and of time. And he's going to appear as a human being. Not only does he have to appear as a human being, but more than that, we have to know who was his papa and who was his mama. Yes. Because no Jew would accept him as the Messiah unless and until you see the lineage. With dogs, it's called pedigree. With human beings, it's called a lineage. Who is his father, mother, and grandfather, to ensure that he's come from the house of Dawood alayhi salam. So when Dajjal comes flying on the donkey after the Malabad, it will be Dajjal in human form. Next question.
The question is that early in your response about Iran, Pakistan, you mentioned that you would like to know who then controls Pakistan and Iran.
No.
There is a hadith about an army coming for Razan who did have black flags, and I decided to adopt a cautious approach to the subject. Why? Because proper methodology is that you must first study the Quran, first study the subject from the Quran before you go to the hadith. When you do that, then if the hadith is in conflict with the Quran, or even in appearance of conflict with the Quran, like this hadith, the Nabi Muhammad والسلام, married Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha when she was 6 years of age. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you hear that? Please correct me if I'm wrong. If the Prophet ﷺ married a 6-year-old child, then it is sunnah to marry a 6-year-old child. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. If it is sunnah to marry a 6-year-old child, is there anyone in this gathering here who will say yes? It is sunnah. I agree. Yes, that it is sunnah because I accept the hadith. Is there anyone who says that it is sunnah to marry a 6-year-old child? I don't think anyone would say that. Nor will anyone give a 6-year-old daughter in marriage. But I tell you, ISIS is going to do it. And they're going to have a video of it if we don't do something about it. And when that video is released, it's going to be on every single television channel in the world. And it'll be repeated and repeated and repeated over and over and over again. And then it will be too late. And you will be the laughing stock of mankind. And you deserve it. Because this hadith is an insult to the Prophet and Islam. Yes, a manifest and disgraceful insult that Muhammad والسلام, would marry, make nikah with a 6-year-old child. It is also a conflict with the Quran. And you don't need much research to see it's conflict with the Quran. So I am of the opinion that you must first study the Quran before you go to a hadith. So I put the hadith of Khurasan aside until I have the time to study the Quran on this subject and then to make an assessment of the hadith. Next question, please.
Well, now the current Sunni Shia fabricated division is the Zionist plot with Muslim agencies to subvert the position that Iran can play in a political environment.
I'm getting a headache. I really don't understand the question at all. The Dajjal's master plan is to ferment or to provoke Sunni Shia war at this time in the House of Islam, for obvious reasons. And if we had some intelligence, and if we don't fall into the trap of passing our own fatwa that the Shia are kuffar, you can't get away with that. The manner in which you declare that the Shia are kuffar is that you have to have a fatwa. And the fatwa cannot be issued by a schoolboy or by a student in a Darul Uloom. The fatwa has to be issued by a scholar of commanding rank, respected by his peers, because you're dealing with a whole community. And that fatwa has to be written with all the arguments and dalil. When that fatwa is written, it then has to be studied by those who have the competence to study it, the ulama. And when they are in agreement that you have ijma', the ulama, as we had on the Qadian and then you can say that the Shia are kuffar. Otherwise, watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Otherwise, you make a fool of yourself. Okay? Yes, I know you can have arguments about Shia conduct and this or that. There's no problem with that. But to say that they are kuffar, no, there is a procedure. If that had been done in the last 1400, 1300 years, then how come the Shia have been performing the Hajj unmolested? Unmolested. With no obstacles in their way placed by any regime in control of the Hijaz and the Hajj. And without demonstrations in Cape Town or any other part of the world. No, they should not be allowed. They're not Muslims. In my living, and I am 73 years now on the face of the earth, and I have never come across any demonstration in any part of the world protesting the Shia performance of the Hajj. And I think it's a little late now to come up with this fatwa that the Shia are kuffar. If they're not kuffar, then you must conduct yourselves in a manner that is becoming. A manner that is becoming. I go to Iran and I say to them very plainly and clearly, I say that the belief system of Islam has to come from the Qur'an, because Allah says of the Qur'an that it is Tibyan and Likulli Shay, it explains all things. So it has to tell me who is a Muslim, the belief system of Islam. Who therefore is to be the ruler of the Muslims. And the belief system cannot come from the Mutashabihat. It has to come from the Muhkamat, because this is Ummul Kitab. So don't come to me with any ta'wil or interpretation of any verse of the Quran, because that's the door. That's the door. Tell me where in the Muhkamat of the Quran do we find that Allah has ordained the leadership of the Ummah is restricted to the house of the Prophet ﷺ. The theory of the Imam. It's not there. Therefore, if you divide the house of Islam on a matter which is not to be found in the Muhkamat of the Quran, you're going to have to answer to Allah. And guess what? Because I don't go to them with boxing gloves. I don't speak ill to them. No. They listen to me respectfully. And some of them have started to reflect over what I have said. Oh, yes. And they invite me to come again. So I say at this time when Dajjal wants to provoke Sunni Shia civil war, then your leader and my leader, Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, would want us to respond with efforts to build Shia Sunni solidarity to confront the enemy.
Take two more questions. One.
I always know that the Russians have a lot of work as you have been Anglo-Saxon from the Russians are aware that they somehow I come along at least they're more than like the world Islam on
Did you hear?
If I understand it correctly, you're asking about the Russian situation and the relationship between the Russian people and the Muslim people in Russia. Yes.
There are 20 million Muslims in the Russian Federation. 20 million Muslims in the Russian Federation. Something like, I think, 40% of the Russian armed forces are Muslims. Something like 40% of the Russian armed forces are Muslims. Yeah. It is when the CIA, and before the CIA was Britain, wanted to stab Russia in the back. That there was funneling weapons and money, sterling pounds and weapons, to try to provoke Muslims into an armed rebellion. That you'll find these Russian Muslim wars taking place. But that is not the only reason why the Russians wage war on Muslims. There's another reason. This latest one in Chechnya is because the CIA was fishing in Chechnya with US dollars and with US weapons. And if you don't know that, go and ask the Chechens themselves, and they'll tell you. But prior to this, how do we explain that Allah in the Qur'an has said, has commanded, if you differ with my explanation of the verse, say so tonight. Surah Al-Ma'idah. O you who have faith in Allah, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who have faith in Allah, لن تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء بعضهم أولياء بعض ومن يتولهم منكم فإنه منهم إن الله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. O you who have faith, do not take such Jews and do not take such Christians as your friends and allies who بعضهم أولياء بعض. Who بعضهم أولياء بعض. Shall I repeat it a third time? Who are themselves friends and allies of each other. The Quran is prohibiting us from maintaining friendly ties and becoming allies and accepting sterling pounds and weapons from a Judeo-Christian alliance when Jews and Christians become allies of each other. And if you do that, you've lost your Islam, you belong to them. And Allah will not provide guidance for a wicked people. And here comes the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire for 500 years wages in bogus jihad. In bogus jihad. On Rome. Who is Rome? Go to Surah Al-Rum and you know who is Rome. Only but in Rome and you know who is Rome. Rome is the Orthodox Christian world which never entered into an alliance with the Jews. Up to this day. So who entered into the alliance with the Jews? It is the Western Christian world. It is Britain who led the way. And it was Britain who was fishing out there, sending weapons and money to Imam Shadi. The Ottoman Empire waged war on Rome, unjust war, for 500 years, only on the Orthodox Christians. The Ottoman Empire took the capital city of Rome and took the Khilafah of Islam and brought it to sit down right there in the capital city of Rome. If there was any humiliation to the world of Rome, this is it. Took the greatest cathedral of Rome, Hagia Sophia, or Hagia Sophia, which has been the greatest cathedral for 1,000 years, and wickedly, monstrously wickedly and sinfully and shamefully transformed it into a masjid. If you want to defend what they did, come on and say so. Let's have it out. I say what you did was shameful, because Allah in the Quran asks us to protect not just the masjid, but the synagogue and the church. They say in Surah Al-Hajj. And so Rome was bleeding. They waged war on Rome. And when they defeated any Christian, Orthodox Christian people, they will sign an agreement for ceasefire, and they will have to pay tribute, anfal. And part of the anfal, shamelessly, maliciously, sinfully, disgracefully, never before in the history of Islam have any people shamed us as much as the Ottomans. Who will say so? That they had to hand over a certain number of Christian boys as part of the tribute. And these Christian boys will be converted to Islam. If you did not be killed. And they will now get trained to become the Janissaries fighting force, the elite fighting force of the Ottoman Empire. And so when the Ottoman army went to fight against the Christians, your own sons will be fighting against you. Would you excuse these people for hating Muslims? Huh? And then they will take the women and enslave them. And the Ottoman sultans never married. Why? It's only with their medical yameen they'll have children. So a sultan is always the son of a Christian woman. So when the Ottoman army comes to you, it is your own son who is leading them against you. These things are not happening by accident. What the Ottoman Empire was doing all through these 500 wicked years was to sabotage the end-time alliance between Muslims and the people who Allah has spoken of in the Quran, saying, وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. That the Christian people will be the closest in love and affection for you. And I say that those Christian people are who when they defeated, when they were victorious, we celebrated. And so the wars that the Tsarist Russia fought against Muslims, that wars we can understand because of the hatred they had for Islam. But that hatred is coming now. I went to Russia, yes, in July of 2013. And I went to the greatest university in Russia, the State University of Moscow, and I lectured there. And I was received with respect. Yes, they listened to me with respect. And we parted with affection. They were very happy to hear that the center, the heart of Islamic eschatology was not what the Iranians had taught them. The Iranians have taught them that the heart of Islamic eschatology is the advent of Imam al-Mahdi. So when I went to Russia, all I'm hearing is Mahdi, 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 Mahdi. And I said, no, you're wrong. The sign of all signs of Akhir Zaman is not the advent of Imam al-Mahdi, the Shia Arab. It is the return of the son of Mary. And when I said that, you could have seen the smile on their faces. They were so happy. They said, but your eschatology and ours is the same. And when I spoke of the conquest of Constantinople, they said, but your eschatology and ours is the same. And they embraced me with affection. And they invited me to come back. And so 500 years of Ottoman wickedness. But Allah can grant His grant and Allah's grant is the better grant.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We say shukran to Maulana Imran Hosein for always coming to South Africa and giving us important information. May Allah reward him for all the investments he has made. And may Allah reward him for all the traveling to keep the Muslim Ummah informed. I once again want to apologize that I'm late. But as the delegation of the Muslim Digital Council, we had a meeting with some international people from Syria, from Palestine, and from Lebanon. And maybe it is connected with tonight's talk, because these people are coming from the area of Syria. In fact, the brother is the director of the hospital in Idlib in Syria. And the information that I received tonight is once again, this is confirmation that our brothers in Iran is running Syria and killing our Muslims in Syria. They are killing our Muslims in Syria. Hezbollah is now controlling of the Beirut airports. The Houthis are taking over Yemen. Now, whilst Maulana is correct by saying they can't make the Shia Kafir, and that is a policy of the Muslim Judicial Council here in Cape Town, that we can't blatantly make Shia Kafir. But if a Shia says that Sayyidina Abu Bakr is a Kafir, then we will say, and I will say that then you are a Kafir. If you say Sayyidina Umar is a Kafir, then I will say you're a Kafir. If you say my mother, Sayyidina Aisha is a Kafir, then I will say you're a Kafir. But blatantly, we can't say that all Shia are Kafir. But it's very unfortunate that this ISIS, this information that I received just tonight, fresh information. This ISIS is an establishment of the CIA, and Maulana said, and the Muslims, and unfortunately, Iran is also involved. Iran was on the verge to produce nuclear weapons and energy. The new president of Iran has made some agreements with Barack Obama and the United States of America, because it's more important for them to take over one day Saudi Arabia. And they are taking over Syria, they take it over Iraq, they are busy taking over Yemen, and they would wish to take it over Saudi Arabia. And this is not a myth. The first thing they will do, may Allah protect, if they take over Medina al-Munawwara, Makkah al-Mukarramah, is to remove the bodies of Sayyidina Bakr and Sayyidina Umar. It's not a myth. May Allah protect this Ummah. You know, it's important for the CIA and for Mossad and the United States of America to work with Iran, because the Shia are not the majority of Muslims in this world. They're not the majority. They make it 8% to 30%. The vast majority of this Ummah is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And they want to break up the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, the end result belongs to the muttaqeen. So we must motivate one another to become of the muttaqeen. We must work in this ummah. We are in a crisis. not in a crisis. We are in a crisis. And this Ummah needs to stand up and to wake up. And we, as the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we must sort our differences. And while I'm speaking about not making the Shia kafir, to them, there's no question that all of us are kafir. If we don't believe in their system, we consider them kafir. But we are very kind, because we are the Ummah of the Nabi Muhammad. We want a lot of mercy. We don't have to make people kafir. We want more people to eat the Jannah. So may Allah protect us from that. So once again, we want to say, Alf Shukr, 1,000 times Shukr for Maulana Imran Hosein, our beloved father. And I'm saying again because we know Maulana for a long time. He's been coming to the ATC for a long time and always sharing with us very, very vital and important information. May Allah grant him long life, inshallah. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا واغفر لنا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك يا الله من خير ما في هذه الليلة فتحها ونصرها ونورها وبركتها وهداها، ونعوذ بك من شر ما فيها ومن شر ما بعدها يا رب العالمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Somebody can pick up that son.